Deanne Adamson here, back with another episode in this Nature of Addiction series, now on the manifestations of addiction. Over the last 10 years, the phenomenon of addiction has become quite a fascination for me for many reasons. In particular, because the opportunity and power of walking the deep, dark journey of addiction, followed by a process of transformational recovery, can become so monumental to achieving higher states of consciousness within this human experience. I have written extensive textbooks and courseware on the subject, and I run an international coaching organization dedicated to supporting people's transformational work through the recovery process. I see how addiction hides in society and how nearly everybody is facing a battle with a phenomenon of addiction without realizing where the opposition and interference in life is coming from. Most people just think of drug and alcohol addiction or sex and gambling addiction, as I've been talking about, because this is how we've been programmed. But in reality, the nature of addiction is so much more comprehensive and inhibiting to our collective growth and ascension than most people realize. Up to this point, I have spoken about the nature, the phenomenon and the experience of addiction, the causes and benefits of addiction, as well as different types of addiction. Now I will discuss how addiction manifests as a mindset, a personality, and a lifestyle. In the next series, I will discuss the transformational recovery process that we teach at Being True to You, which is the organization that I run. But first, there's still more to unpack in regards to the raw reality and the hard truths of addiction. Now, I have touched on some of these points already, but if you truly want to understand how to break the cycle of addiction or learn how to help and support others through addiction, or just better understand this spell that society is under in general, then it helps for us to look through many angles to understand what is happening to a person when they become addicted. And if you like to keep things simple, don't worry, because I will continue to point back to core principles. So now I will discuss the mindset, methods, and mechanics of addiction, starting first with the addictive mindset. The addictive mindset is immersed in our human culture, manifesting on macro and micro levels everywhere in society. The addictive mindset falls on a spectrum of moderate attachment to complete enslavement. At the lower end of the addiction spectrum, the addictive rituals will be less demanding, and at the higher end of the spectrum, the addictive rituals will be extremely demanding, occupying one's mind at all times. The addictive mindset is highly intricate and influential to a person's life. The addictive mindset externalizes one's power, takes control over one's true self, and depletes energy and power. I will speak to each of the three. This mindset is fueled by the instant gratification and quick results of addictive rituals, relying more and more on these rituals to feel good and to function. However, as we know, this mindset leads a person into a deep well, and it's not a solution at all. So let's unpack this, starting first with the externalization of one's power. The addictive mindset externalizes all reality by projecting itself in the material world. Hence, the conditions of life are seen as coming from the external world. Problems are observed and experienced outside oneself, such as in relation to others, society, and nature, and thus solutions are sought outside of oneself too. This stimulates desires, cravings, emotional attachments, and an endless pursuit to find quick resolve to problems through materialistic means. This mentality becomes the core belief system for people, the belief that problems and suffering, or relief and answers and happiness come from outside of ourselves. And then this belief, it multiplies into many smaller beliefs to validate the consequential behavior that comes with this lifestyle. For instance, it is common for people with addiction to also carry a victim mentality, always blaming and resenting others, or distrusting and fearing others, or even defending and protecting oneself against others. And this is because the blame and the responsibility is externalized onto someone or something else. But the more that people externalize their problems, the worse these problems become, which evolves the already obsessive-compulsive mentality into an excessive, progressive, and sometimes even aggressive mentality. And then this leads a person deeper into confusion and further from the truth. Next, the addictive mindset takes command and control by putting itself at the center. It keeps the focus on the immediate relief and benefits of addictive rituals and maintains control by holding one in fear. Because addictive behaviors produce consistent and reliable results, people become obsessed with getting these highs and eventually at any cost. There is an insensible allegiance to the addictive substances or rituals despite the growing consequences. As I have often said, your faith in addiction becomes the fate that binds you. To keep one committed, the addictive mindset, it rationalizes the behavior and the consequences as well. For instance, justifying the behavior, deflecting reason, going to extremes, overgeneralizations, minimizations, making excuses, having a one-sided narrow perspective, or just making assumptions. The rationalization, it perpetuates the denial and vice versa. Next, the addictive mindset depletes energy and power. The addictive mindset fuels the body through addictive means, depleting a person of their own strength, energy, and power when the mountain of problems becomes too high to climb. This puts people in a place of scarcity and self-loathing, wearing on them mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The more a person becomes dependent on addictive rituals, the less resilient and adaptable the mind becomes. A person's tolerance for just daily life and all the unknowns, the hardships, the conflicts, the heavy emotion, it decreases, and a person is unable to endure these circumstances without the comfort of their addiction. Additionally, this loss of psychological strength, it correlates with the disconnection from God, from the true self, and from Mother Nature. With addiction present, matters of God, spirituality, and intuition often become dormant, or spirituality warps into something else, sometimes accepting all things into one's field as spiritual. In extreme cases, people are led to forget that God, souls, and the supernatural realms even exist. Whether mentally obsessed, emotionally possessed, or spiritually bankrupt. In the midst of an addiction, tendencies to fall out of heart center, condemn God or others, tarnish oneself, or trash the world around grow stronger. The mind becomes more entangled, more confused, more fearful, and more absent-minded. And it becomes more difficult to tell the difference between right and wrong as addiction leads a person to become more self-centered. Addictive thinking develops along with addictive behaving as a way to avoid feeling pain, facing one's feelings about themselves, and seeing their fears, shortcomings, wrongdoings, misgivings, attachments, and anxieties and symptoms of trauma. Addictive thinking perpetuates addiction and prevents a person from dealing with and healing the very things that led them to addiction. Addictive thinking keeps the cycle of addiction intact without the person realizing what is happening, because the mind is always focused in another direction. The problems are projected outward, and so the solution too must come from outside. The focus on extrinsic problems and solutions, it prevents a person from exploring their inner truths and virtues and rediscovering their true self. Turning now to the addictive personality. The addictive personality works hand in hand with the addictive mindset. They are the same body. I only separate to observe the inward thoughts versus the outward demeanor. The addictive personality determines one's outward or relational demeanor with others. The addictive personality becomes a life of its own, creating a separate alter ego that positions itself at self-center, causing a person to become self-absorbed and self-serving. The addicted ego is always with an agenda and selfish pursuit. The addictive personality also keeps others at a distance, and by others I mean the people who care. This is accomplished through isolation, avoidance, and distraction. or by creating conflict and chaos with others, such as through making judgments and criticisms, or being cold or just out of integrity. Another way to keep others at a distance is to put on a show. Keep the addiction and the issues hidden and hold a particular image that all is good and well. The addictive personality is also emotionally manipulative through a number of control patterns. For instance, guilt tripping, interrogation, making empty promises, having mindless chatter, silent treatments, or telling lies. It is like a chameleon, always having to blend in or play a certain role to get what it wants. Sometimes the personality has to move into good graces to manipulate others into getting what it wants, always pretending and making promises to be a certain way or to do a certain thing in exchange for something that serves the addiction. In other cases, this might entail controlling others, or exploiting people's vulnerable areas, or just taking advantage in situations for personal gain. Sometimes the personality has to create distractions or be dishonest to avoid getting caught and to maintain the secret lifestyle. Other times the personality has to take control and demand forcefully what it needs using any necessary leverage. And yet, in other cases, the personality has to create drama and conflict to rationalize its disappearance, its disconnection, or its discord. All right, moving now to the addictive lifestyle. As a lifestyle, addiction locks in a certain set of behavioral habits and patterns. Sleeping, eating, self-care, exercise, work, personal tasks, relationship duties, and so on move into rhythm with the addiction's needs. The addictive behaviors set up a lifestyle framework that is calibrated to match a person's high and low times of necessary performance and functionality. For instance, during work hours, the addictive behavior must be more controlled, or the high leveled off or more balanced in order to get the job done with just enough energy, but not too much, and in an undetected manner. And this also goes for any public or family events that exist outside of the addiction culture. But during the nighttime or on the weekends, a person's life is arranged for a higher degree of intoxication, in either an isolated setting or in an addiction-accepted social setting. The addiction lifestyle is an extension of the addictive mindset and personality. With mindset, we are looking at the thoughts that manifest through the phenomenon of addiction. With personality, we are talking about relational demeanor, how one acts toward others. With the addictive lifestyle, we are talking about the behavior and habits and activities and schedule that manifest when addiction is present. The key thing to note about the addictive lifestyle is that addiction changes one's internal compass from what is in my best interest to what is in the addiction's best interest. Life no longer exists for a person's well-being and cultivation, more or less their survival. Rather, life is rearranged for the addiction's survival, even at the cost of total destruction for the human being. The addictive lifestyle is also ritualistic, consumed either by validating and procuring the ritual, the enactment itself, the euphoric effect, covering things up or mitigating the come down, and then continuing to repeat this cycle. The more a person relies on these instant yet short-term benefits, the more reliant a person becomes. The more the consequences pile up, the more help a person needs from their addiction, and the more dependent and uncontrollable things become. The addictive lifestyle is also avoidant. People turn a blind eye and do whatever means necessary to escape, avoid, or numb the pain, fear, and anxiety. People neglect important things, losing interest and ability to care for oneself and others, and forgoing the responsibility that comes with being human. People procrastinate, putting things off, holding a later or tomorrow attitude, allowing something to always get in the way with little sense of urgency. The addictive lifestyle is also destructive. One is often in chaos with many things going wrong and breaking down, and experiencing conflicts with others and missed opportunities. The addictive lifestyle is an inefficient way to live life, working hard but hardly working, creating busyness but no real business, going at it all day but not producing tangible results. In the end, the yields are low. It is a poor use of energy as the consequences pile up over the benefits. Once the destructive nature of things sets in, a person is already addicted and finding themselves in a state of powerlessness. The addictive lifestyle is a tiring way to live life. Not only is the mind always thinking or the personality always strategizing, but the body is always doing something to serve the addiction or make up for lost time or failed action as a result of the addiction. The addictive lifestyle is where a person becomes enslaved by their own daily habits. And this habit or habits has to be satisfied often several times a day with multiple steps per ritual, which has to fit into one's already existing life. So any time for personal cultivation, self-care, quality time with loved ones, or just responsibilities or new opportunities are neglected because any spare time is immediately allocated to the addiction. Now, a person can still engage in other activities as long as those activities coincide and support the addiction and not interfere with it. Therefore, people tend to pass on the activities that are more positive, healthy, growth-oriented, and social, and lean toward activities that are addictive, such as TV, social media, and gaming, or competitive sports and games, or even certain passion projects and being in nature. Now, that is not all bad, obviously. However, when a person decides to quit their addiction and they have linked all their favorite activities to the addiction, they often find that they lose interest in those things, finding them too boring in recovery. In summary, addiction manifests as a mindset, a personality, and as a lifestyle. It also manifests as a culture, which I can talk about at a later time. Addiction is not defined solely by the ritual itself. As people become addicted, addiction becomes the people. The addictive mindset externalizes the human experience. It takes command over human consciousness and behavior, and it wears us down as humans. The addictive personality now births an alter ego, creating a selfish, seclusive, and seductive approach to life and relating with others. The addictive lifestyle is ritualistic and all-encompassing, avoidant and neglectful, and all in all, inefficient and destructive. Understanding all the different ways that addiction can manifest in your life can help you to make incremental improvements in each area of your life, paving the path to recovery with more ease. So, to integrate this episode, describe the most obvious addiction characteristics that are affecting your mindset, personality, and lifestyle, noting your insights for each and what you can do about it. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode on the addiction crisis today.